change across the board. Cashman has to go. He still has that 4-year deal, 3 years left. But I don't know if they have the guts to do that. They're going to bring an outside auditing group in. Depends on how they audit. If they're nerds, they'll survive. And the bottom line is the whole system is bad. I talked to some Yankee people over the last couple of weeks. I can't tell you, Rob, you know how you run a team and the people within the organization are disgusted beyond belief? That's how Yankee people feel. So from within, it's a terrible situation. So they need drastic changes. Will they make them? I don't think so. I also heard, and we know what Judge said a couple of days ago, but I heard Judge went off in the clubhouse a few weeks ago. He was so upset with how everything was going. So big problems for the Yankees because the other teams are getting better. They're getting worse. As for the Mets, as I wrote my last column at Ball 9, over the rainbow, it's over the rainbow time because Mets fans and the Mets always think that it's going to get better. It's going to get better. We'll just make this change. We'll bring in David Stearns, and, now it's going to be great. I'm not so sure. I know some people that were in the Milwaukee organization. He got a lot of help from people in that organization that developed the pitching and scouted the pitching, and basically it was one of those things where he really had nothing to do with it. So I think they're in trouble, too. I think, I think Buck got Eplered this year, and by that I mean he didn't have enough talent. So when they started bringing up these kids who weren't ready, like Hartwig, who had a limited amount of minor league innings, Buck just said, okay, you want these guys up? Here's what they can do. And it got destroyed from within. Alonso, also been told from people who know, big-time leadership problems in that clubhouse. And Lindor, he started the season terribly. He ended okay. Here's my problem. He needs to focus on being a leader and not being a talk show host at second base for every opposing guy that comes on to second base. And he has to talk to them at length. So big issues there. One other point about the Yankees minor leagues, and we've seen it with Volpe, and I addressed it earlier in the year with you, they don't teach hitting. And they wonder why they hit 226. Only the Athletics are worse. They can't hit fastballs because they put so much stuff in their head that it's they don't react to fastballs. So they have to get back to basics across the board. The obvious answer is right in the organization. Brian Sabean. Sabean is, he's still got the fire. He would be great. But I don't know if they would have the guts to move him up in a power position. Then you almost make him the new Stick Michael. You can survive. Yeah. Then you can survive with Cashman because Cashman does he could be out front type of thing when Stick did all the baseball things. That's what I would do. The answer is simple for the Yankees if they only did it.
What were your thoughts when you saw Chaim Bloom was out for the Boston Red Sox?
My thoughts, and you guys know this from day one. What took so long? He never should have been in. Never should have been in. As I said long ago on this show, I talked to one of the Rays owners way back when they hired him, and they said he was just another Google boy. They weren't going to miss him. So I think what's going on there, I really believe Alex Cora is working behind the scenes because he understands what's missing there. Again, Tom Werner I've known for 30 years almost now, and John Henry, he's more interested in the other stuff now, not really the baseball team. So what are the owners going to do? Are they going to do the typical? Let's go to another nerd. It might be a former nerd player like Sam Paul, or do they have the guts to go without outside and or kick up? I would, to be quite blunt. Here's what I would do if I were the Red Sox. Again, Sabian's the answer. He's sitting right there. Hurt the Yankees, grab Sabian, and then you can make Alex Cora wants to be in the front office down the road. What a perfect way to guide him through. That's the answer for them. But I don't think they'll do it. I think the problem is they hire these guys that are nerds, and they think that they can come in, and just because they were maybe good in a certain area, they're not good in the big leadership. They don't understand leadership. That's why you have so many, these teams all the same deal. No defense for the Red Sox. You got to have pitching and defense. That's simple. If you don't have that, you can't do it. So I think the Red Sox in a world of hurt, the last place finishes, I don't see them climbing out of this unless they make radical changes, and I don't think they'll have the guts to do that. So I think it's a division where the Orioles could reign for a few years.
A lot of teams can play spoilers, especially the Yankees, the Blue Jays playing the Blue Jays. You got the Red Sox and you got the Mets all playing, contenders for the postseason. Let's just take that right now. Phillies, Diamondbacks, and Cubs. Diamondbacks and Cubs are even as far as the number 2 or 3 spot, but the Marlins and Reds still have a shot. Who do you like in the National League? Let's just go with the wild card because most of the divisions are sewed up.
Yeah, I'm going to stay. Last time you had me on, I felt the Cubs would hang in there, and I still feel they do. I think Dansby Swanson is a good player for the last week of the season because he kind of sets the tone with wanting to win, and they've been getting better pitching than they thought they would get. So I like the Cubs. I think they're just going to, the Marlins got the easiest schedule, but the Marlins always seem to do Marlins things, and I don't see them overcoming it. So I think it pretty much is going to stay just the way it is. And to me, the most interesting team in the National League, and this may blow you away, is the Phillies. This team, the way they do things, they're as close to a team that loves each other and really cares about one another that I've seen in many years. I don't know if you guys saw the other day when the kid pitcher came up who went from single A all the way up. His father was in the ballpark crying. Orion Kirkering is his name, and it was a dramatic moment. This team. And what they've overcome, the Phillies, I really like the Phillies if they can get that bullpen straight. So that's what I see in the National League. If the Marlins come, that would surprise me. And I think the Astros will hang on in the American League.
What do you think about this? We've been talking about how much we love Bryce Harper. And I know the year Acuna's had. We're big Mookie Betts fans here in this studio. But, man, if leadership was in the statistical category, I think that this guy might win an MVP this year.
Tell you what, if he had played the whole year, he probably would have. You got to give it to Acuna. I mean, you can't fool around with that. The numbers are just off the charts. But it was, and I've known Bryce a long time. It was so much fun to watch him grow up before your eyes this year in a team fashion, a team way, and he loves it. And again, what do we have there? We have an organization where Dombrowski kind of brought some baseball things back, and Rob Thompson. So yeah, I agree. It's been a pleasure to watch Harper do his thing, and they tasted it last year, and they want more. And isn't it interesting how basically they and the Padres are in the same boat, and look who developed and went. Why did they go much further than the Padres did? And it comes back to baseball, and it comes back to Bryce Harper and leadership. And not that Manny wasn't a lead. There's things with Manny you got to like and not like, but from what I heard with that, because we got to mention the Padres. I was there for so many years. The clubhouse there was just terrible. And here's my one warning to everybody: buyer beware on Juan Soto. That's all I'm saying.
All right, Alex Anthopoulos and the Braves. I know Acuna is going to win the MVP, but the Matt Olson, letting Freeman go. Olson's still got a little bit more life in his bat. Freeman's still a hell of a player, but making some of the deals that he's made, picking off some of the best talent off other organizations, I'm kind of shocked in some of the trades the Braves have been able to pull off in the last couple of years.
Yeah, he's done a great job, and you know why? Because he listens to people. Alex put a lot. If you remember, even when he was at Toronto, they had more scouts than anybody. Every time I was at a game, I ran into like 2 or 3 Toronto scouts, and he believed in scouts. So he's a perfect example of taking that, combining both. And there's a lot of people who don't love Alex, but they love what he's done. And you can't get over this too. This is a huge factor. Look in their dugout. Look at the experience and winning that they have in their dugout. Everything from managers to coaching staff, and I think that's an organization that communicates, and they take into effect not just the numbers, what a player is like. And Matt Olson's I'm so glad you brought him up, because doesn't he seem now, when you see him play with the Braves, he's almost like one of these guys that you think he's been with the Braves for 10 years.
Right.
He's got that kind of. Wow, he's like a new chipper in some ways. And the Braves, you know what? You do baseball things, you get rewarded baseball-wise. They do have some pitching issues going in, but I think they have a little bit of time to get it straight. And Morton won't be back until later, to an NLCS type
What about
thing.
Fried? Will Max Fried come back early, or will he be late?
Yeah, he'll be back fine. Okay. I think this is a total precaution type thing, and he another one. Talk about the Padres. Let him go. But I think Max Fried will be fine. I think they'll find a way to get through it. They're just too good. But Anthopoulos is, that's your executive of the year in both AL and NL.
What's the reason that the Baltimore Orioles won't win the World Series this year?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if they won't. I'm not saying they won't win because I am a huge. I think it goes back to catching so much. And if you look, that's another thing. The Yankees and Mets have both struggled with, even though the Mets have the kid Alvarez. You got to have that leadership from the catching, and Rutschman has been, to me, if you're talking about MVPs, he's in. Corey Seager's in the running too up there with Ohtani, but I think the Orioles putting Flaherty in the bullpen could be interesting. Bautista, I think, has a throw day today. They're doing a sim game with him. We'll see where he goes.
Yep.
So. Yeah, I think the Orioles, those kids, they're athletic. That's the new secret, fellas. You got to be athletic, you got to care, and you got to pitch, and you got to play defense, and you can run through these teams, and that's what the Orioles have done. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing the Orioles. I think the Astros are a step down, and some other things going on in the American League. I would love to see the Orioles go and be in the World Series, simply because they're great fans there too. I mean, I have so many people who are Oriole fans, and they're loving it. But I love seeing a catcher like Rutschman, and I don't know if I said it on the show before. I apologize if I do, but I want to bring it out again because it's a great point. The scout told me this, and the more I thought about it, it's true. Rutschman is Gary Carter, and to have that kind of leadership is a great addition to your team.
And the backup is James McCann, who the Mets quickly got rid of because 1 year it's like, this guy's not good, let's get rid of him. And Travis d'Arnaud, by the way, with Sean Murphy with the Braves.
Oh, my God.
Talk about catchers. The Mets have had great catchers in the last decade that they've just said, we don't think you're that good.
Well, that's another thing that they've done in picking up Murphy. They're like the smart. If you ever watch like Antique Roadshow, they're the smart guy. The Braves are the smart guy that goes and buys the good thing that's going to go up in price.
Right.
Especially when that's who they are.
Great. Yeah. The pickers. They're pickers.
Yeah, and catching is so important. So I know, he was my favorite Met. I went out and visited him before they got him. Soon after they got him, I spent a week. And his father, his father is a great guy, great family. I think I've told you before, the father raised Komodo dragons to raise extra money.
Yeah, you did tell us that.
and
That's awesome.
D'Arnaud, he's changed his swing. He was an injury guy, and the Mets have a way of breaking down a player's confidence. It happens over and over again, and you're seeing it to some extent, fellas, with Alonso now. What Alonso's going through. So my advice when I talk to these players sometimes is get away from the Mets as far as you can. And you'll be better off, because I don't think they've convinced me yet that they know what you're doing.
I want to know about Florida fandom. I have a couple of friends in the Miami area that are geared up for the Marlins making the postseason. We just read the story about Tampa Bay getting a new ballpark in the future. Will those be home field advantages? And this is an if for the Marlins, but for Tampa Bay when they are in the postseason.
Tampa Bay has a home field advantage just simply because their pitchers like to pitch in that ballpark. Has nothing to do with the fans, but they will get enough. They'll get enough of fans that'll jump on the bandwagon and make some noise there. So it's definitely going to be an advantage for the Rays. I love the way they play there. Chad Mottola, the hitting coach, has done a phenomenal job. I like to give credit to people you never hear about. What he's done with that team and how they approach and how they hit the ball all fields, and they also look to go deep too, so they can slug as well. So I think the Rays will be fine. They do burn through pitchers, but that happens. I think the Marlins. I actually don't think unless you put a WBC franchise in Miami, I don't think you'll ever be successful there.
It's a great idea.
That's a great idea.
It's a great idea, actually.
It is a great idea, isn't it? I mean, and again, there are great baseball fans there, but for some reason they can't get behind the Marlins, and the Marlins have tried their best, bringing the Latino players in. And I know I sound silly, but I love the Trop. To me, it's one of my favorite ballparks for a lot of reasons. And I also love going to the Marlins Park. It's a great park. So I don't understand why fans don't go. First of all, at the very least, you go to the park in the summer because it's not 110 degrees.
Right.
It's 72 every day. It's 72 in that place.
Yeah, you can't beat it. And And they've done a nice job with their teams to make it a little bit more exciting. But, yeah, I don't see the Marlins having any kind of advantage if it comes down that way. And again, with the wild card and the way things go, to your point, though, you know who has a big advantage in that? Phillies. Phillies got a huge advantage playing it. No team plays for their home crowd like the Phillies play for their home crowd. And when they have that home field advantage first round, that'll be huge.
And I love how they stood behind Trey Turner when he was struggling, and now the kid's on fire. Now the kid, that having that love for Trey Turner by the fan base and not hate, turned that kid's season around.
I got one quick story. On our podcast, we had the longtime travel secretary and clubhouse guy for the Phillies on, and Frank Koppenberger. And this is why I love the Phillies, because Kruk is still an announcer there.
Oh, yeah.
McCarthy, the great guys. Kruk was with me with the Padres. But anyway, they went through Kruk's locker at the end of the year. He had the dirtiest locker. And by the way, you know who had the cleanest locker, which is shocking? Lenny Dykstra. But Kruk had the dirtiest locker you could imagine, what was in there. At the end of the year, they found a half-eaten cheesesteak that was there for like 4 or 5 months.
God.
But here's the best part, and this is when guys didn't have the money like they had. They found a $20,000 check from Franklin Sporting Goods because of the batting gloves that he forgot he even had in the locker. So that's there's something about the Phillies that makes them a little bit off-center, which they're not perfect. And I think the same thing with the city of Philadelphia, the fans of Philadelphia, and that team. It's not perfect, but, man, I will say they leave it out on the field every night.
I know we got, just real quick, new rules, new bases, but Acuna Jr. is the only person to do it. 40-40, he's the fifth person in all of Major League Baseball history. Is this kid super special like those other on the list, or are we going to see another name and another name and another name in the next couple of years?
I don't think the other players have the guts to do it like Acuna did, and also to get on base as much. So I don't think we'll see it. It is special. Unfortunately, it's been watered down. And I think Acuna could have been doing these things with the old rule to some extent, not exactly maybe the same numbers. So I think it's special what he does, and I don't think you'll see a flood of this happening, simply because it's mainly risk aversion baseball. The people in charge of teams don't allow them to do those things because they look at the negative instead of the positive. And getting back to our point about the dugout there, they have baseball men in a baseball in that dugout, and they will let Acuna be Acuna. So it's super special what he's done. It's so good to see, too, coming back from an injury. It tells you so much about what that kid's all about, and I love it.
Kernan, you're the best. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. It's always great to talk baseball with you, and we touch, you always bring out the best and have me touch a lot of bases.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kevin. Be well.
Take care.
All right. We'll come back and do the first dibs question of the day next.